And we're going to skip a few years, but please stand up if you've been to, no, keep standing. Please stand up if you've been to 5 or more Eclipse Cons. All right, 2. 1. All right, now sit down. Okay, so please stand up if this is your first Eclipse Foundation conference event, EclipseCon or Open Community Experience. Please stand up. To all of you new people, I want to say welcome and welcome to our community. I hope what you learn over the next few days is that the Eclipse community is one of the most welcoming and fun group of people you're ever going to work with. And I really hope that you have a great time these next few days in Mainz. And with that, let's actually get to the talk. So I'm supposed to do the State of the Union. They call it the State of the Union every year. Of course, now we mean the State of the European Union. And this is our first open community experience. And what does that mean? So for years we had EclipseCon, and we are still holding an event called EclipseCon, which is one of our tracks here. But we're also adding in the fact that we have evolved as a foundation and as a community to do many, many different topic areas. And we hope to add more open community events as time goes on. But this year we're adding open community for Java with our good friends from the iJug, and thank you very much for your partnership and support in getting that to work. And then we're also having open community for automotive, which is supported by our software-defined vehicle working group, which is one of the fastest growing project areas and communities within the Eclipse Foundation, and thank you very much for your support. And of course, we have a track called, the Open Community Experience, which is the main track. So thank you very much for all of you who are coming here to join this. This is an experiment for us, and so far, I have to say that the experiment looks like it's a huge success. I've seen a lot of smiling faces so far today. I really love the way the hall looks. The food was great for lunch, so far, so good. Awesome, thank you. Okay, and welcome to a truly global community. So we have over 400 registrations here. I think the final numbers are expected to be somewhere between 430 and 450. We're obviously very pleased with that for our first event. We have over 200 committers registered at the event. And for you committers, I want to give you a special warm welcome. If you're a committer on one of our projects, you are absolutely the backbone of everything that we do here at the Eclipse Foundation and our community. We would literally be nothing without you. So thank you so much for being a committer on an Eclipse project and joining us here in Mainz. And we truly are a global organization, of course, based in Europe. But we have over 35 countries represented here today, and I think that's fantastic. It's great to have a real global community joining us here at OCX. This is the reminder that we have to do every time we have an event, which is we do have a code of conduct, and yes, we enforce it. And so if you see or hear or anything happens that requires the attention of the staff, Mikhail, stand up for a second. So if you see somebody in a blue hoodie that looks like that, they will help, okay? And we'll take care of it. But fundamentally, you don't have to go read the code of community, the community code of conduct. It basically says, be awesome to one another, and you'll be fine. So thank you. And a special thanks to our program committees. Again, putting on an event like this is a huge task, and the selection of the talks is actually not done by the Eclipse Foundation itself. We work with our program communities that represent our the breadth of all the different things that we do at the Eclipse Foundation. So the main track, the Open Community Experience, was chaired by Angelika Wittek, so thank you very much. Is Angelika here? Where is she? Hello? Anybody? Hey, thank you. And the EclipseCon track was chaired by Miro. Miro, there you go. Hi, Miro. Thank you. And keep going. We have 4 program committees. Oh, Hendrik. Hey. So Open Community for Java. That's Hendrik's. Give a wave. Thank you, Hendrik. And finally, open community for automotive. And where's Felipe? Anybody? Not here? No? Okay. So thank you, but thank you, Felipe. So I really want to emphasize that the folks that we just went through, the chairs in particular, but everybody who's on these program committees, while you were all enjoying your summers, your summer vacations, they were working hard to make sure that we had great talks and great speakers here at OCX. So really, thank you very much. And of course, we would not be here without our sponsors. So we had a really great turnout from and support from our sponsors. I wandered the sponsor hall a little bit this morning and heard great feedback that the new look and feel. I think it looks. I think the new hall looks great. And thank you very much to Huawei for being our one platinum sponsor. But all the sponsors, we would not be here without you. So thank you very, very much. And now a word from one of our sponsors. So, going forward, the next couple of slides I want to talk about, this is called, the State of the Union. I want to talk about a few things that have really caught our attention at the Eclipse Foundation since we last gathered a year ago. So, we've had a year of great growth at the Eclipse Foundation. We've got 5 new industry collaborations. We've had over 35 new project proposals, and of course, new projects are what really keeps this community going and growing. That's awesome. A lot of those projects, I should mention, are in the realm of software-defined vehicle, which again is one of the fastest growing parts of the overall Eclipse community. And we've grown by almost 60 new members of the Eclipse Foundation over the past year as well. So I think this is a real sign that the things that we're doing at the Eclipse Foundation are really working for our committers, our projects, our members, and the industry as a whole. And we're obviously very pleased and very proud of the kind of growth that we've seen over this past year. One of the things that we did this year is we rethought our mission statement. And we talked about this at the board, and we talked about it amongst the staff. And this is something that we talked about a great deal before we came to it. But at one point, in terms of actually coming up with the sort of approving it, took a lot of work. But the idea was actually inspired by almost exactly 1 year ago, I gave a keynote at the Apache Software Foundation's Community Over Code conference. And they wanted to give a keynote of what is valuable about open source foundations anyways? Like, why does anybody actually need a foundation? And in classic Mike style, I'm in my hotel room the night before I'm doing my keynote, writing my keynote. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I'm a big believer in just-in-time slides. And as sometimes happens when you're under pressure, you get a little bit of a moment of inspiration. And I kind of jotted down, and not exactly these words, but an early version of these words in terms of what is it that open source foundations really do? And I really think that these 3 ideas capture this to a large degree, which is ensuring user freedoms. And user freedoms, and I don't just mean end users in this context. User freedoms also mean the companies that adopt our code. Making sure that when a user or an adopter or some downstream consumer of the projects that come from the Eclipse Foundation, making sure that they know that they're safe to use that code, that they have all the license permissions to continue to use that code for as long as they want to, and to be sure that we're never going to change those permissions on them, as we sometimes see in the single vendor open source world. Empowering developers, and I think this is something that honestly we can do more at the Eclipse Foundation, but foundations really do, and I think in the future are going to increasingly do, is empower developers to focus on doing their job. With things like the CRA, the Cyber Resilience Act, and the ever-increasing amount of regulation in the software industry, it's going to be more and more complicated to be a developer that just wants to focus on open source code. And I know there's going to be some talks here on the stuff that we're doing about security and the other and related topics, supply chain security and so on. But a lot of what we're really trying to do is make sure that we can take a lot of the weight off the shoulders of developers on complying with these regulations and being a good open source citizen. So empowering developers is something that I think open source foundations do today, and we can certainly do more of in the future. And of course, enable collaboration. That's something that we've been talking about at the Eclipse Foundation for many, many years. And you think of the working groups and the projects that we have, the PMCs that we have. Enabling collaboration, and one of the things that I'm particularly proud of is we have projects at the Eclipse Foundation where we have individual developers, they could even be students working with people that are working for some of the biggest companies in the world. And they're collaborating together on a single project, building some interesting code together, and I think that's actually a fantastic feature of the kinds of things, the kinds of governance that we offer our projects and our interest groups and our working groups. And a couple of places where we see this collaboration really taking off. So Adoptium, which is our OpenJDK distribution, is exceeding 20 million downloads a month now. There was a survey. Hey, Stuart. Good job. And so we have over 20 million downloads. We've had over 500 million downloads in total since this was brought to the Eclipse Foundation. And at least one survey by New Relic said that after Oracle, we're now the second largest Java vendor on the planet, which is kind of cool. So Adoptium is really helping promote the adoption of good quality industrial grade Java distributions based on OpenJDK. And of course, Jakarta EE. This was the move of Java EE to the Eclipse Foundation. It started, I think, about 7 years ago. And I really want to stress something that when we first started this 7 years ago, it was kind of this experiment, and a lot of people were pretty sure we were going to fail. And it's actually been a huge success. Jakarta EE, the number of companies that are now shipping Jakarta EE compatible implementations, the number of compatible implementations has skyrocketed ever since we moved Java EE into Jakarta EE. And this has been a huge success, and this success is going to continue when we ship EE11 later this year. And there's a lot of work that's gone into the new features, of course, in EE11, but really a lot of the work has gone into modernizing the TCKs, and which sounds like sort of background plumbing work almost, but it really is going to set Jakarta EE up for even more success in the future, because this is going to enable a faster pace of innovation in future releases. And I've mentioned SDV a couple of times already. With the support of BMW and CARIAD from Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, so we've got the big three German OEMs, but also Bosch, Vector, ZF, Harman, and Microsoft. And to a large degree, software-defined vehicle is about the automotive industry meeting the IT industry. Connected car scenarios, the kinds of cloud infrastructure that we're going to need to be successful with these connected car scenarios, the kinds of technology that's going to be running in the vehicles of the future. These are all issues that this group is grappling with, and Open Community for Automotive across the laneway there is having talking about all kinds of interesting stuff, and I really think that this is a big part of the future of the Eclipse community, but a big part of the future of the automotive industry. And coming up in late November is I think our third or fourth hackathon in Karlsruhe, so just down the road. So if you're interested in learning more or participating in the community, by all means, join the hackathon. And Eclipse ThreatX, which is a project you may or may not heard of. It's something that came over from Microsoft just a little less than a year ago. This is the world's first open source, safety certified real-time operating system. And it's been a huge learning experience for myself and my colleagues at the Eclipse Foundation to learn about how do you do functional safety in an open source, community-based project. And it's been a fascinating learning experience, something that, and we just got the recertification, so we got our certificates issued to the name of Eclipse Foundation from SGS TÜV-SAR, I think 3 weeks ago. And there was just a day of celebration that we were able to do that, to like the first open source, community-based, safety certified real-time operating system, which I think is actually very, very cool. We just announced this, I think, last week, but for the last 5 years, we've been working with the Open Hardware Group, which what they're doing is they're taking the RISC-V ISA and actually designing real core processor designs using System Verilog so you can actually make RISC-V into a real chip. Right? RISC-V has got huge mind share. Everybody's heard of RISC-V. But RISC-V itself is just an ISA. It's just a specification on how you might be able to build a chip. But this actually takes it and makes it real. And there we have like three and a half finished core designs already. And we just announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to be now completely joining the Eclipse Foundation, becoming part of the Eclipse Foundation. And so we now have a complete stack right from open hardware to real-time operating systems or Java virtual machines, to like whatever it is that you want to do. You can get technology from the Eclipse Foundation for that complete stack. And something that has been taking up a lot of my time and something that I think is really important for the future of the Eclipse community is open regulatory compliance. So as many of you know, we've worked very hard to improve the Cyber Resilience Act. We got something that I think is usable. Now is to actually turn this into reality. How do we actually implement the Cyber Resilience Act for real in ways that are friendly for open source developers and open source projects? And we're very pleased. If you read the names there, of course, there's some big industry names, but we're working with the Apache Software Foundation, the Python Software Foundation, Rust, Matrix, PHP, so on and so forth. I think this is the largest collection of open source foundations to gather together to work on something that I think is, as far as I know, in the history of the open source community. And I think that really says a lot about the trust they're placing in the Eclipse Foundation, and it's something that we're going to take very seriously and work to earn that trust every day as we go through this process over the next couple of years. Piece of research that we did that is pretty exciting, and we have a keynote about it coming up, I think, tomorrow. So Ruth Akege's keynote is going to talk about this some more. But we did a piece of research about open source in the Global South and the positive impact that open source is having on the economies and the future prospects of the Global South. But even more interestingly, how important the Global South is to the open source community today. There's a huge number of developers and maintainers, committers, project leads in the Global South, and that number is only going to increase going forward. So this is a really interesting piece of research. Highly suggest you give it a read, and don't miss the keynote tomorrow. I think this is the last slide that I'm talking about in terms of things coming up before I introduce the keynotes, but what we have coming up as a program for next year is open community meetups. Put up your hand if you were ever at an Eclipse demo camp way in the past, right? All right, so this is basically the Eclipse demo camp on steroids. You want to have a gathering to talk about some Eclipse-related topic in a particular place. We will help support you. It's basically a community day in a box program to help the community get together and grow wherever you may be and whatever topic you might want to talk about. Okay, so the next keynote, hang on one, Sarah, because I think so I'm going to come back to you. But next keynote is Sarah Novotny, and I'm going to come back. But then we have coming up Haibo Chen from Huawei talking about Open Harmony and Oniro, and Leandro Von Vera for Big Code and building open LLMs. Now, back to Sarah. So Sarah is somebody I've known for a long time. We had her do the keynote at the Automotive Open Source Summit. She was fantastic, so we immediately invited her here. her self-description is recovering open source wonk. She's worked at places like Google and Microsoft. She's been part of the OpenStack and the CNCF communities for many years. And it's great to welcome her up on stage. Sarah, please take it away.